Thank you for joining us on KARE 11 News Now on this Friday. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get to your headlines. A powerful earthquake rocked Thailand and Myanmar this morning, with rescue operations ongoing in both countries trying to save people from collapsed buildings. The 7.7 magnitude quake with an epicenter near Mandalay in Myanmar struck at midday and was followed by a strong 6.4 magnitude aftershock. In the last few hours, the death toll in Thailand has risen to more than 3, and a massive rescue operation is underway to rescue dozens of people trapped. In Myanmar, the epicenter, new video shows intense cracks in the streets, buildings collapsed, and folks trying to dig out. The New York Times reports 20 people are now dead in this country. Myanmar's military-run government declared a state of emergency in the 6 regions and states. It was not clear what the declaration meant, since the entire country has been under a state of emergency since 2021, when the army seized power. Meanwhile, over in the Carolinas, fire crews are bracing for another tough day on the front lines, where fast-moving wildfires are threatening homes and lives. NBC's Marissa Para is in Pickens, South Carolina, with the very latest.
Well, what you're seeing behind me, these trucks loaded with equipment that's going to go straight to the fire line. Of course, you can see all of these crews, a lot of them already out at the fire line. This is because in South Carolina, we have seen 0% containment as those fires continue to grow. Now, you might have seen some heavy equipment, some bulldozers in the background. A lot of that is in large part to clear out the debris left over from Hurricane Helene. We have confirmation that that has been hindering efforts because, of course, not only does it provide fuel for the flames, but it is also making it that much harder for firefighters to get to where they need to go. So in South Carolina, there's, of course, the Table Rock Complex fires. But then in North Carolina, of course, we're seeing the Black Cove Complex fire, now the nation's highest priority fire, with nearly 500 people assigned to fight it. We've seen new evacuations, of course, aggressive measures all over. Back here in South Carolina, we're hearing the first time in South Carolina history that an air tanker was used to drop fire retardant on nearby homes to protect them. So as we're looking ahead to the weather forecast, we are expecting some stronger winds again today. So they're going to continue to use those aggressive measures to try to protect the structures. So far, no structures affected here in South Carolina. Of course, we'll keep a close eye on it throughout the North and South Carolinas here on the ground.
Well, Vice President J.D. Vance arrives in Greenland today for a trip that morphed from a cultural trip by Second Lady Usha Vance to the Vice President joining to check out what's going on with the security at a key U.S. military base there. NBC's Molly Hunter reports from Greenland.
Good morning from the freezing cold capital of Nuuk, actually well below freezing, I should say, but where the Vice President J.D. Vance, the Second Lady, Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, and the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, that high-level U.S. delegation, where they're heading is even colder. They're heading to the northwest, the remote northwest of Greenland, to a U.S. military base to meet with about 150 U.S. military personnel. And this trip, as we've been talking about this week, is a much scaled-back version of what it was originally going to be. And talking to Greenlanders yesterday and today, since we've been here on the ground, this is a trip they can live with. This is an appropriate trip, people tell us, that they can live with. They're going to go meet with U.S. military personnel. That is a base that has been there for 75 years. It's really America's kind of Arctic listening post, the first line of defense for ballistic missiles coming from Russia or China across the Arctic. And so people here have no problem with the American Vice President going up there. What they had a problem with is the Second Lady coming here for some kind of cultural trip, uninvited and unwelcome. Now, we spoke with a lot of people who say they respect America. They want to collaborate and work with America. And one of the members of parliament, actually, that we spoke with, talks about how they want to learn how to dance with America, to really kind of do some kind of business that benefits the people here and is not just dictated by America. Molly Hunter, NBC News, Nuuk, Greenland.
Well, this morning, Minnesota's 2 biggest state worker unions say they're weighing all options on how to move forward after Governor Walz announced state workers will be required to be back in the office at least 50% of the time starting in June.
We have helped recruit and retain a qualified, dedicated workforce that wants to come to work and do their jobs. And they've been doing it for 5 years, more efficiently than ever.
The governor says the move will help promote collaboration at state agencies. His decision follows orders from St. Paul's mayor to bring city employees back to the office a minimum of 3 days a week starting on Tuesday. But state workers and the unions representing them say they were blindsided by this. Union reps say they haven't ruled out potential lawsuits or strikes, and there's now a protest planned this weekend at the governor's mansion. Well, have you checked your cell phone yet this morning? Chances are you have, and chances are you could have one of those E-ZPass text scams on it. They've been causing people a lot of confusion and concern lately. Now a Minnesota lawmaker says the Twin Cities 4 E-ZPass lanes themselves are their own kind of headache. He told our Ian Russell why he wants the state to ditch the company completely.
Millions of motorists travel thousands of miles daily on Minnesota roads, from out of state.
We are both from Columbia, Missouri.
To here in the cities.
It's a big city.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone knows traffic can be a nightmare. It's the whole reason we have these E-ZPass lanes.
I think they're a great idea for alleviating congestion and encouraging people to share rides.
And while Chris Detmer and Tom Frankman are on board with these, not everyone would agree.
As a commuter, I was saying no. This should be changed.
Republican State Representative Elliot Engen won't mince words about this. Much like the scam texts we've all gotten about unpaid tolls recently, he thinks the lanes themselves are a scam too.
You used some pretty strong words in that post as well. I mean, you called it just straight up a scam.
Yeah, it is. I don't think that the government should double tax people who just want to make that commute, that they have to make to get to their job anyways. Let's free up that traffic for people. That actually makes it safer on the roads, and they can keep more money in their pocket.
In the coming days, Engen plans on introducing a bill to ban the collection of tolls on Minnesota highways.
I just don't think that the government necessarily needs to profit off of something that you need to get to work.
Solo drivers pay somewhere between $0.25 and $8 per ride, depending on the number of cars and speeds in the lane. According to MnDOT, money collected on the E-ZPass lanes up to a certain point stays in the corridor where it was collected, going towards operations and maintenance. Engen says it should stay with you.
We shouldn't be imposing just another layer of more and more money that's coming out of their pocket simply to get to work. That doesn't seem right to me.
When you look at that, though, does that seem as if that's top of people's agenda right now, or do you think there are other things that are on their minds?
I think Minnesotans, by and large, feel like they're not getting the ROI that they used to with their tax dollars.
Engen's proposal would see these lanes turned into dynamic shoulder, general purpose, or HOV lanes. There could still be dedicated lanes under his bill, but they wouldn't cost anything to use. It's an idea Engen says he came up with after he thought about his own experience.
The other lanes are bumper to bumper, but there's a lane right there that we could all be using, and maybe it wouldn't be bumper to bumper if we could.
Tom and Chris say as drivers, there's plenty of things to consider first. Engen says he already has, now ready to push to get this done.
I don't see how people are being forced to pay for those roads, and it sounds like the people that do choose to pay for it are helping out the road system.
Do you think this has a chance?
You never know unless you try. That's the thing about politics, is nothing gets done unless you press it.
Well, big heads up for folks who park on the street when they go to the state fair. This year, in certain neighborhoods, it will no longer be free.
If it's going to cut down some on the parking, it'll be great. If it gives more money to this city, well, that's cool too.
I pay the taxes to live on this street. I should be able to not have to pay anything more to park on the street that I live on.
Now, the city of Falcon Heights says they will begin charging for parking to recoup costs that come from millions of visitors coming to the city over those 12 days. They'll start charging for street parking during the fair on several blocks northeast of the fairgrounds. It's only for the 12 days of the fair, but the city did mention they will look into expanding the plan for other big events in the area. Make sure you stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.